This is the Bethel Missionary Baptist Church Ministries of Pasadena, California, with Pastor John T. McCall. We invite you to join us live every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. at 1972 North Fair Oaks Avenue in Pasadena, the City of Roses. For more information, visit bethelpasadena.org. Now, here's the word from Bethel Missionary Baptist Church of Pasadena, California.
Well, welcome in, Bethel family. Hope you are having a blessed week in the Lord. I'm excited to be with you on this virtual edition of our Wednesday Bible study. It is my sincere prayer that you and your family are having a blessed week in the Lord. I want to begin tonight by just recapping and giving some highlights, and then I'll move into our lesson on tonight. I want to thank all of you who participated Sunday as we reflected and remembered. This is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, and thank you to our men and sisters who were there to hear the message from Brother James from the City of Hope. Pray you were blessed in the Lord, and those who watch by way of social media, that you got the information you needed to be able to help the man in your life go and get screened. Screening can save you a lot of misery down the road. And so we bless God for the information that was presented and for those who will be helped by it. Listen, we're already planning for May of 2024, our 65th church anniversary, and we're starting now to get the word out that we are celebrating the goodness of God in the life of the Bethel Church. Plans are on the way from the anniversary committee, and you'll be getting information this Sunday in our morning worship service regarding some of the plans being made and how you can be involved to help celebrate our 65th anniversary. In addition to that, this coming Saturday at 10 a.m., will be our leadership training meeting and going over the business of the church. Our leaders, interested members, you are invited to attend, and we have a couple of major announcements that we'll be making, and so hope to see you at the church. Those of you who are not able, will still be able to live stream it, and so you can still be a part of this training that we have planned for this coming Saturday morning. Okay, all right. Let's get in tonight. To talking about how you win. You know, we preach and we teach, but winning, being successful. All of us love a winner. We'll talk about the heroes of sports in our lives, who we love and like, and go out and buy that jersey. And you know you're fond of somebody if you go out and pay some money and wear a jersey with that name on the back of it. Identifying with those who we perceive as being successful in their sports career, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, whatever it is. And we think that somehow this just happened. We say they're good. Well, they became good and great because of their work ethic, because of their practice. And yes, many of those athletes are automatically gifted and talented just by virtue of human nature. But for many of them, they've had to work hard to harness in those skills and perfect their gifts and talents and put in the hard work that was necessary. And for many of us, when we see people, we just assume it happened. We just assume they must have gotten a break. But in life, God is able to move instantly. He's able to deliver overnight. He's able to perform that miracle. And I never doubt that, of what God can do in an instant, what he could do suddenly in anybody's life. But for many of us, it's the long journey of having to work hard, to endure, to put up with the pain and the sacrifice if we're going to be successful in life. And many times, in reality, we can't see it. We know we're working hard. We know we're putting in the effort, and sometimes you really can't see it, and then we may become dismayed, and maybe contemplate quitting. But it is that part of that stick-to-itiveness that makes the difference. And I believe so it is in the life of every believer. In the life of every believer, that we're going to have some troubles. But the psalmist says, God delivers us from them all, not some of them, but them all. And so our part is to stay in the game. Don't quit. Stay focused. Keep your balance. Don't quit. Don't give in. Don't succumb. Keep up the fight. Keep pressing forward. Because we win, not just in the end, but we win now. And I know it might not seem like it. I know you're being bombarded. I know you're going through your list of things that you keep repeating in your mind. But listen, if God brought you through yesterday with it, He brought you through Monday with it. He brought you through last week with it. And He's bringing you through today. You got to contend that you have a God who's a deliverer. And whatever the enemy threw your way, whatever the enemy allowed to come your way, it didn't take you out. It didn't take you under. Why? How I know it? Because you're still here. You're still listening to me. You're still believing that there's a brighter day ahead, that the sun is going to shine again, that that door is going to be open, that way is going to be made. And so you keep persevering. You keep doing what you know is right to do and what the Word says to do. And eventually that breakthrough is going to come. But then there are those times when God moves suddenly. You remember when they were assembled in the upper room? And Jesus had gone back to heaven, and on the day of Pentecost, and the Bible said, and suddenly a mighty rushing wind came and filled the room where they were. God can move suddenly, and we can, look for Him to come through. But for many of us, it's an over-the-course thing. But I want to encourage somebody tonight that when you need Him the most, we say God is an on-time God. He always comes on time. He shows up when we need Him the most. In our text from Sunday that I just gave you a few pointers on Sunday and didn't really get deep into the message because of our time restraints, but in 2 Kings chapter 20, 2 Kings chapter 3 and verse 20, from the New King James Version, now it happened in the morning when the grain offering was offered that suddenly water came by way of Eden, and the land was filled with water. Yeah, by Eden, the land was filled with water. And suddenly, when they went through the process of the morning sacrifice, that water came by way of Eden. These three kings had set out to go against the king of Moab, because Moab had been paying tribute to them, sheep herding and giving them their price every year. And when the king died, they decided that we're going to rebel. We're not going to do this no more. We're not going to do what we normally have been doing. And these three kings made a decision. The king of the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom, and the king of Edom decided that we're going to mount forces and we're going to go and wage war against Moab. But on that journey to Moab, they ran out of water. They ran out of water. They had no water to drink, no water for their flock. And you know how important water is Water is vital to your survival. Our bodies, 70% water. You go without drinking water for a couple of days and see what happens to your body and to the organs in your body. Water is essential for life. And they ran out of water. You would think, well, why didn't they plan? Why didn't somebody who was in charge of the water ensure that they had enough water? Listen, God has a way of setting up blessings because of our faith that we don't even know how it's going to happen. And that's the thing tonight I want to just really just highlight the most about faith. That for many of us, we think it's going to happen this way. We're looking for the miracle to come through this way. We already got an idea of who's the person that's going to bless us. But God has a way of using things and situations and people and nature to be able to bless us. And so you got to get out of this mode. You got to just trust God. Faith is believing the impossible, knowing that God can use any avenue, any means, any way of bringing what he wants to bring to pass. And how he can do it many times is beyond our wildest imagination, our wildest dreams. We can be praying for years. God, get us out of debt. And he'll come through. You think you got to hit the lottery for it. God has a way of you chugging along and paying some here and paying some there. And that before you know it over time, you'd be like, what? I'm almost debt free. Consistency in what we're doing. But then God can also, whatever way he chooses, come through with the bundle and bless you suddenly. You had no idea where it was going to come from or how it was going to come. And yet God came through. I want to look at this story that they're about to go into battle and not having what they needed. And I want to ask you again the question I asked on Sunday. How many of you have ever had an unexpected situation to occur? Or even may have said that a man, child, girl, if it ain't one thing, it's another. And a lot of our situations, we don't see it coming. It just happens. It's like, how did it happen? What? Where'd that come from? But what do you do? What do you do when you can't see? What do you do when you don't have enough? Can I tell you? You continue to walk in purpose and power. You continue to walk in purpose and power. Holy Spirit lives on the inside of us. God has a purpose and plan for our lives. And when you don't know what to do, can't see what to do, you continue to walk in purpose and walk in power. And even when it seems like the purpose of what you're doing is fuzzy, you still got his power. Why? Because you still got his presence. He says, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. And we already know what he's already done. And he's already ordained your path. He's on your side. You're already a winner. Whether you realize it or next, he knows your beginning from your end. He knows the path that we take. But for many of us, we walk through life needing to know everything. And I realized that some time ago that for most of the time in life, we're on a need-to-know basis. There are some things that you don't need to know until you need to know it. Knowing it beforehand is only going to produce more anxiety for you. And we say, well, Lord, just let me, give me something. Give me a sign. Show me something. Then that's not faith. He'll let you know when it's time to know. He'll let you know when it's the right time. Before then, it may wreck your world. Then you're like, nah, he can't do it. That's not going to happen. He can't do it. God can use anything or anybody to bring forth his miracle. And in this case, suddenly, the morning that they offered the morning sacrifice, water came down from the mountain. But then let me go back and give you some insight into the story of what they had to do. It just didn't happen that water flowed down, but they had to do something. Okay, let's look at the word and see what it says. Um, um, in I think verse 9 of chapter 3. And it says, so the king of Israel went with the king of Judah and the king of Edom, and they marched on that roundabout route 7 days, and there was no water for the army, nor for the animals that followed them. Now here's what happened. And the king of Israel said, alas, for the Lord has called these three kings together to deliver them into the hands of Moab. But Jehoshaphat said, is there no prophet of the Lord here? You got to catch it. But Jehoshaphat said, but is there no prophet of the Lord here? Not with the army, but who lives in this area, that we may inquire of the Lord by him. And so one of the servants of the king of Israel answered and said, Elisha, the son of Shaphat, is here, who poured water on the hands of Elijah, which means that he was his servant and he served him. When they were in trouble, they inquired, is there no prophet here that we can go to, that we can present our case to and see what he says? Has he heard from the Lord? Can he go to the Lord for us and hear? And so the lesson for us today, go to the Word of God. You ought to show up for worship on Sunday. You ought to pray. You ought to read your Bible. You ought to go get wise counsel and see what the Lord has to say about your situation before you make a move. Now, they had no water. No water for themselves or for their animals. And Jehoshaphat said, verse 12, the word of the Lord is with him. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat and the king of Edom went down to him. They found out where he was, and they went where he was. And then when they showed up, when you read the Bible and you look at this response from Elisha in front of these kings, of what he said. And Elisha said to the king of Israel, what have I to do with you? Because this king was Jeroboam, and he was the son of Ahab and Jezebel. And you remember Ahab and Jezebel, who served idols and those kinds of things. And Jehoshaphat served the Lord. But when he said to him, he says, what have I to do with you? Go to the prophets of your father and the prophets of your mother. I mean, kind of like, and they're dead. He said, go to their prophets. They couldn't produce nothing on Elijah. He tarried all day with them, and they couldn't do nothing. And now you coming with him, with Jehoshaphat and the other king, to me. But then look what he says. And it just amazes me, given their response. And he says, but the king of Israel said to him, no, for the Lord has called these three kings together to deliver them into the hands of Moab. And Elijah said, as the Lord of hosts lives, before whom I stand, surely, were if it not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, I would not look at you nor see you. Man, that's a terse response. That's deep. He said, if Jehoshaphat wasn't here, I wouldn't have nothing to do with you. I wouldn't even respond to you. But get to verse 15. He said, but now, in spite of all of that, but now, bring me a musician. Brought him a harpist to play. And but it happened while the musician played that the hand of the Lord came upon him. And he said, thus says the Lord, make the valley full of ditches. He says, go back to where you are. The valley right below the mountains. He said, get your men to make this valley full of ditches. Go out and dig some ditches. For thus said the Lord, you shall not see wind, you shall not see rain, yet that valley shall be filled with water, so that you, your cattle, and your animals may drink. Now look at the prophecy. You won't see wind, nor will you see rain. So if I'm not going to see wind, the wind's not going to blow, am I going to see rain? And then why am I digging these ditches for water to come? Now faith, again, isn't it amazing sometimes how God can ask you to do some things that just seem silly, impossible? It don't make no sense. Why are we doing this? That's crazy. And if the Lord told you, you need to do what he said do. And do it the way he said do it, when he said do it. He said, go to that valley, he says, and he says, dig some ditches. Now they're expecting, why am I going to dig ditches? He said, because you're not going to see the wind, you're not going to see rain, but the valley can be filled with water, so you, your cattle, and your animals may drink. And this is going to make you shout and run out your room. Because in verse 18, Elisha says to them, now, whatever they must have been thinking or imagining or wondering, Elisha says to them, and this is a simple matter in the sight of the Lord. He said, this ain't difficult. This ain't nothing for him. You need water. You need water to drink. You need water for your cattle. You need to be successful in your venture. Go out and dig these ditches like I told you. Even though you're not going to see the wind, you're not going to see the rain, but they're going to be filled with water. Can you imagine if that were you? You'd be thinking, but how? What water going to come from? How? And sometimes we get into trouble and miss our blessing because we try to figure it out. And for somebody tonight, your shout is, while you're trying to figure it out, he's already worked it out. You just got to believe. You just got to walk by faith. Stop asking questions. Stop trying to get into how, when, where, and what it's going to be. You just believe. Only believe. All things are possible. And the prophet said to him, this ain't no difficult. You thinking this is some, he said, this is a simple matter. Not a difficult matter. And we know from reading the story, we know what happened with this. Verse 20 says, now it happened in the morning when the grain offering was offered that suddenly, and God can move suddenly, water came by way of Eden, and the land was filled with water. Water flowed from the mountains into the valley, into those ditches. Now, what if they had not dug the ditches? They would just have some mud, some water in the mud they couldn't use. But because they dug the ditches, and when the water flowed from the mountain, they said you're not going to see wind and you're not going to see rain. Ain't God good? Look how he worked it out. And the water came and filled those ditches. And the people in the mountains, the Moabites, heard that the king had come up to fight against them, and they were all able to bear arms, and they were just so happy. They were so delighted. They got up early in the morning, and when they got up, they saw the reflection of the sun shining on the water. And the Moabites saw the water on the other side as red as blood. They saw the sun shining on the water in the ditches, and it looked red as blood. And verse 23 says, and they said, this is blood. The kings have surely struck sword and have killed one another. Now therefore, Moab to the spoil. In other words, they said, hey, these three kings done lost their mind. They done got into a fight together, and they've killed each other, and that now we're going to go down and take the spoil. We ain't even got to fight. And imagine them running down from the mountains thinking that they have to fight didn't bring no sword, didn't bring no bow, no arrows, no nothing. They get down there thinking, and look how God works. He gives them water, and yet the enemy perceives that the water that's going to give them drink and supply for their cattle, they think is blood, and they think they got into a fight and killed each other. And now God is not only preparing them to win the battle, he's giving them what they need to sustain in the battle, and he's also confused the enemy so they'll be defeated in battle. You got to understand that God knows what he's up to. Somebody say we took care of two birds with one flow of water. He gave the water for them, and then the enemy saw the water as blood. They run down to the spoil, and then they get their behinds whipped. God has a way of bringing us through, of bringing us out. And I wonder on tonight, are you digging the necessary ditches? Are you doing the piece that God told you to do? That's going to get you what you need and cause your enemy to be defeated? Or are you still questioning, that don't make no sense? That don't sound right. He must don't know. I'm not doing that. Following instructions. And I said a lot. That success in life, to a large extent, is based upon your willingness and obedience to follow instructions. I'll say it one more time. Success in life, to a large extent, is based upon your willingness and obedience to follow instructions. Hey, my time's about up tonight. Listen, I'm excited about what God is doing in the life of the Bethel Church. You do not want to miss our planning meeting on Saturday morning at 10. We've got some great news to share with you, what the Lord is up to. And Sunday, first Sunday, to celebrate as this quarter ends and we begin the last quarter of this calendar year. Man, time has just flown by. And I pray that as time has flown by, that your faith has increased. And the year is not going to close with you being the same as you were in the first quarter of this year, that you can now look at the difference he's made in your life. Listen, I'm Pastor John T. McCall, Senior Pastor of the Bethel Church. Great seeing you on tonight, and look forward to seeing you on Saturday morning and Sunday morning for the Lord's Supper. Until then, be blessed.